So who are you talking to? That's what we're here to talk about. Who are you emailing? Who are you blogging to? Who are you writing ad copy for? What is your web page saying to these people, and who is reading it? This is me. I used to be a professional poker player for 10 years. This is not what playing professional poker looks like, despite what a lot of people might think. And like I said, I run the Splash U blog with my wife. We talk about growth marketing, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship. We run an agency together. I am the chapter director of Startup Socials for San Diego, which is a large events networking company that just loves to foster entrepreneurship and startups. And they're very well connected and quite large in San Francisco. We wanted to bring it down here to San Diego because we really do believe that this can be one of the next best tech hubs and great places to launch a startup. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a tech startup. In fact, maybe we'll be the product-centric startup instead of the tech center. And then this is the SDDME logo that nobody here recognizes, but is actually probably how you got here through one of the meetup groups for SDDME. So today we're going to talk about personas and avatars. A persona is a semi-fictional, let's say, visualization of who your ideal customer is. So if you think about who all of your possible customers are, a persona really talks about an ideal smaller segment of that audience. We don't want to talk about every person that could ever buy your product. We want to talk about one specific group of that. And an avatar is really just one person out of that fictional audience. So you go from 26 to 35, females that like to shop, and now we've chosen a 27-year-old shopper, and her name is this. And that's what we have in front of us. With these is kind of it's about defining our target personas and then defining our customer avatars. So we have a name that we want to give them. And this is going to become really important because I want you guys to put this up right next to wherever you work so that you can look at it every time you send out an email, every time you write a blog article, and every time that you're talking to your audience, especially when you're not in front of them too. Because when you can see somebody face to face, you have an idea of how you want to talk to somebody. But when you are, making an ad, as my wife was here for, for a conference in this case, you need to think about who is going to see that and how you're going to get them to elicit a response that is generally going to get them to buy or get them at least interested. So by the end of tomorrow, I really want you guys to all have this taped up next to your desk. So you probably heard this one before. If you talk to everyone, you talk to no one, right? If you talk to everyone, you talk to? No one. Right. So we don't want to talk to everyone. We want to talk to somebody specific. We want to talk to that segment of the group that I was mentioning. And there's really 3 reasons why we want to talk to a very specific audience. The first one is because you want a believer, because a believer is a buyer. Right? A believer is a buyer of your product, but if you talk to everybody, you really just push people away. And when you talk to one specific person, you can bring in people around what you're talking about. Let me see if I can make that a little bit more clear for you. I don't feel like I did a good enough job. If you're thinking about, let's say, women's shopping, and you open a shopping store and you say, okay, I sell women's clothes, so all women are my target market. Well, if you're trying to target women that are 25 years old and going out to the club with the same message as a woman that's 50 years old with 2 kids and only goes out once a month, if you use the same messaging to both people, you're not going to talk to either of them. You're really just going to have a bland message that neither of them really pay attention to. But if you talk specifically to the younger girl about how she's going to go out clubbing and you've got a great discount for her on Saturday morning so that she can come in and take a look at her clothes that she'll buy that day, you've now got somebody interested in an offer that you've put in front of them. So when you talk to everybody, you talk to nobody. But when you find one segment of the audience and you really put the right offer in front of them, and it can be the same article of clothing, right? It could be the exact same thing, but you phrase your offer in a way in which they were more interested. So the second one is kind of what I just said, actually. So you use familiar language. So you are able to talk in a way in which they understand. You can tell a gamer, a video gamer, LDO, like the obviously. But you can't say that to a 50-year-old father of two who doesn't play video games. So by making that relationship and finding your voice through what they have to say, through what your audience actually will tell you, and we'll get to that in a second, you're able to really form your idea of who your audience is and then speak to them better. And the third one is what's really deep-seated, what issues are underlying with this person's problems. The shopper who's 25 years old, she's probably working paycheck to paycheck. She doesn't have a lot of money saved up, but she still shops a lot. But the mother, the 55-year-old mother of two, she's got lots of money, but she's really picky with what she buys. So you get to understand the problem, the pain point. The younger woman wants something cheaper. The older woman wants something specific. So this is when it gets really interesting, because we can use ads to target people online. And this is kind of what it's all about for me with target personas and why it's so valuable. This is a LinkedIn targeting profile from an actual client of ours. He sent it over to me yesterday, and I had to tear him apart on it. So what we've got here is every possible person that might be interested in buying from this person. And he put, Greater San Diego area, Orange County, SF, and all of the industries that he'd like to serve. So this is a lot of people, right? And you can see the company size, 50 to 5,000 employees. What kind of message would you be able to send to this group of people? It'd have to be pretty broad, right? You couldn't really define them. So our goal is to go from this to this, where we've got one area, one category, one age group, and one size of employees. So when you're thinking about how to build your buyer persona, your target persona, it helps to know a little bit about advertising because it can translate really well. So you just want to make sure that you find the initial segment that's your lowest hanging fruit. And I just made this one up for this client. I'll be talking about it later with him to find out who it actually is. But the idea is that if this is the person that's most likely to buy from you, this is the segment you want to start with. This is the first buyer persona you want to make. By the end of your business, you'll hopefully have 20 different buyer personas and 50 people marketing to them in all sorts of different ways. And that's when things like microsites and spin-offs and other social media accounts and all those things come into play. We probably all aren't there yet, and it might not even be part of our business plan to get there. So we want to start with the lowest hanging fruit segment and branch out with different categories. And we would never really mix these categories together. So we don't have to even mix software and hardware, especially if we think we can give them a different message, a different offer. So we make this one ad group, it'd be called, and you make another ad group for a different type of person. And you can definitely talk to, and this is for like C-level executives, by the way. You can talk to CEOs of different size companies in different ways. They have different problems, right? If you own a company and you have about 55 employees, you're probably newer. You're probably maybe a startup. It's a little bit younger. But if you have 2,000 employees, you probably have a larger bankroll. You've got a lot of money. Maybe even have your own jet. There's a lot of things that change when you're talking to a CEO of a 55-person company and a 2,500-person company. So if you talk to everyone, you talk to no one. That's the number one thing that I want you guys to think about when you go home tonight. So let's talk about your avatar. This is the one person that you pluck out of that persona and you talk to them. So when we talk about a group, we really want to segment it all the way down to the individual fictitious person. Remember I said a persona is a semi-fictitious visualization of your ideal customer profile. The avatar is the person, is the now fictitious person that you're going to make up, that you're going to speak to, and you're going to put up on your wall every time you start to do something. So think about who that avatar is. I want you to visualize it right now. You kind of thinking about it? Yeah, a little bit? And think about how you can talk to that person, and hopefully we'll have it written down too. So in order to start this process of really getting deep into the ideal customer profile, the persona, there's one of two ways you can kind of tackle this. If you're selling something right now, or if you have customers, ask them. Just ask. People love to tell you what they're thinking or how they can help you. And if you have a real pain that you're solving, if your product is helping somebody, then there probably is going to be a segment of your current customer base that's really passionate about helping you. They want to give you feedback, right? They want to say what is cool about your app, but what they wish they could do. And so when you ask people questions like that, you get great feedback advice for features, but you can also ask them, hey, what magazine did you read in the last 48 hours? What book did you read this month? Where did you go on your weekends? What do you do in your free time? How old are you? What, male, female? You can ask all those questions. How much money do you make? That's a little bit more personal. Always save that question for near the end. And so the best way to ask is to read this book. I actually have a copy right here that I just read. It's called Ask. Let me read it for you. The counterintuitive online formula to discover exactly what your customers want to buy, create a mass of raving fans, and take any business to the next level. This book is really good. And in the second section, it explains exactly how to ask either your current customers or your prospective customers what it is that they want from you. Because our job is really, as entrepreneurs, is to serve our audience. Right, Rob? Right. And we all think that we have a product that we want to offer to people, and that's our product. But really, our job is to adapt to what the audience is telling us. And so the faster we can adapt around what they're telling us, the better we'll do at our job. So if you don't have an audience, or you don't have any customers yet, then you just need to kind of guess and go from there. So this might be in the early stage or ideation stage where you haven't even found a real product to market. You can go out and ask people, off the street what they think of an idea or what problems they're having. But try and get a little bit more specific. Try and find somebody that's in an area. If you're in health and fitness, try and find somebody at the gym. If you're rather than somebody just off the street, because you need to start segmenting right away. Otherwise, the feedback you're getting can be pretty much pointless. So we guess and we adjust later. And obviously, we have to check to see if your actual audience matches your guess. So you might think that your audience is over here. And after you check your results, your audience is over here. So you think you're talking to Lucy, but you're actually talking to Lucifer. And that's why you have to check your data. He's pretty. You have to check your data to make sure that who you're talking to is who you think you're talking to. And if it's not, then you need to change everything. You need to change your web copy. You need to change your offer. You need to change your branding maybe even. So as soon as you determine that the person that you thought you were talking to, your original target persona, is a little bit different, everything really does change. I think it was even in this book, they talk about how they identified that they thought they were talking to 55-year-old men, but they were actually talking to 65-year-old men. Big whoop, right? Well, there's a generational gap there where people in their 60s listened to different music when they were younger. And they were able to elicit a different response by talking about music that was 10 years older than previous. It made like millions of dollars, just this one minor change, because their audience was 10 years older than they thought that their audience was. So please check the data, pay attention to who your audience really is, and then read this book. So again, this book is really good. The second section, they talk about deep dive surveys and how to get really into the minds of your audience and your customers. So by the end of tomorrow, I want you guys all fill one of these forms out and tape it next to your desk, because talking to that avatar will be what makes the difference in your business. It'll be how you actually get across to people and get buyers. That's it for me. Thanks. Yeah.